morning. Hello everybody. How lovely to see you back here. My name is Amanda and I am from Little Likac and this is my knitting podcast. Welcome to episode 28. Today is the 1st of May. It is Sunday the 1st of May 2022 and I'll give you a weather update because this is a UK podcast and us English podcasters or British podcasters, we always like to give a little weather update first because it can be so variable. So it's the 1st of May, it is quite grey and overcast, very average sort of weather. It's not warm, it's not cold, it's just fairly average. I would like to say that it's raining, but it's not. And the reason why I'd like to say that it's raining is that I've been planting vegetables over the last couple of weeks and there's just been no rain. Literally, since I planted some potatoes 3 weeks ago, we have had no rain. I mean, we had maybe 10 seconds of rain last night because I got all excited. I could see some rain coming down on the skylight and literally it lasted seconds and was gone again. And yeah, so unusually for the UK, very little rain over the last few weeks, and as the daughter of a farmer, I'm pretty sure that is causing a lot of people problems, and as a teeny little vegetable gardener, I'm getting a bit stressed about it now as well. So anyway, that's the weather update. So, but you're not here for the weather, you are here for the knitting and a little bit of crochet. So it is, yeah, the beginning of May. My name is Amanda, as I said, and I run Little Likac, which is a very small little handmade business where I dye my own yarn and make stitch markers and have a shop on Etsy. I am also an English teacher. That is my full-time job and takes up most of my time, as you can imagine. I have a husband, 2 daughters, one who lives with us, one who's away at university, a dog, some gerbils, which belong to my daughter, and 4 chickens who live in our back garden. So yes, you can find me in all the usual sort of places. Instagram as Little Likac Yarn. You can email me at littlelikac@gmail.com. I am on Ravelry at Likac66. We have a Ravelry group for the podcast, although there's nothing active in there at the moment, but sometimes we use that for make-alongs. So yes, that's all the admin-y stuff. So what have I got for you today? Well, I haven't got much in the way of finished objects. In fact, I didn't think I'd got any and then I suddenly remembered I have got one finished object. And I have got loads of new cast-ons. Loads and loads of new cast-ons. So, and then I have also got some news, and I might do the news first actually because the last couple of weeks I'm just going to concentrate on things that have happened in my news knitting wise, and then at the end I might put some things that have happened non-knitting wise, although at the moment I can't think of very much that's newsworthy that's not to do with knitting, which is quite exciting. Yeah, I've got a couple of acquisitions, a charity shop bargain, knitting related. I do love me a good charity shop bargain and I found one yesterday. I was very excited. A mixture of excitement and disappointment, and I'll explain why when I get to that section. Right, so we better crack on. Like I say, loads of new projects to show you today. Yes, so first I'm going to share with you the knitting news that I have because it's all quite exciting. So the first thing to say is the last couple of weeks I've actually been out and about to 2 knitting groups in person. I've done loads of knitting groups online and with quite a few different people, people in America, people in the UK, people local to me. But this week we had the very first knit and natter group for one that is very local to me. So somebody had put up on our local Facebook group, was anybody interested in a knitting / crochet group, which then quickly grew into knitting / crochet / any other small portable crafts. And there was loads of interest. So the lady who decided to organise that, she said for her own kind of schedule that a weekday evening was going to work best for her, which I got quite excited about because so many of these things tend to be during the day when I'm working. And even better than that, the place where she scheduled it is a pub that is less than 10 minutes walk away from me, probably about 6 or 7 minutes walk. And it's a pub and it's at 7 o'clock in the evening, so you know I can get home, dinner sort of thing, you know, and then go and walk up to the pub, have a drink while I'm knitting, which I quite like to do. So we had the very first meeting of that, and it was brilliant because there was about 8 or 9 of us, and it was a real range of knitters as well, because as I'm sure we all know, there are many different types of knitters. And my husband said to me, "Oh, are you excited?" And I went, "I am." I said, "But you know, there is part of me wondering what the other people are going to be like," and I sort of said, "I just hope there are at least a couple of other knitters who knit like me." So what do I mean by that? I guess using the internet for a lot of inspiration, using a lot of hand-dyed yarns, not all the time, but you know, a lot of hand-dyed yarns, using keeping up to date with newer patterns, YouTube, Instagram, you know, that kind of thing. So yes, it was lovely because there was a whole mixture of people, which was great. There were a couple of people who used to knit many years ago and wanted to take it back up again, so they weren't complete newbies, they just needed a few little reminders about a few things. There was a gentleman who also dyes yarn and started knitting when he said when he was in hospital. I don't know when that was, but he was using his own hand-dyed yarns. He was knitting, he watches some YouTube videos. He even said he had heard of my podcast, so if you're watching, hi there. I don't want to say your name in case, but yeah, so if you're watching, hello. There were a couple of younger people in their sort of late 20s, early 30s. There were a few, yeah, so it was a really good mix, and there were people who knitted, people who crocheted. There was one girl who bought her cross stitch. I say girl, she was probably say about 30. There was one lady who had bought, I think she was doing like free embroidery, and yeah, it was really, really nice. And everybody just got on straight away. None of us knew each other before, and we all just got on straight away. And not just talking about our craft, which obviously we did, but we also just talked about all sorts of things, and it was just so lovely. So that was on Tuesday of this week, and it was so nice, and it's going to be held weekly. I'm going to try and go to them. Probably won't get to go weekly, but I am going to try and go to them on a fairly regular basis if I can, especially as it's just so close to me. And then on Thursday, it was another local group. This time it was bigger than just the local area where I live. It was actually Derby City. And this was a knit and natter group that I first joined. We were trying to work out when it first started and everything, but I must have joined it 10 years ago. Went regularly for a couple of years. Then as the girls got older and had to do things on Thursdays, and I think my work got more stressful and busy, I stopped going for a while, and then I just sort of started to go again before the pandemic hit. And so we've been meeting online all through the pandemic, and we hadn't started much in the way, well, we hadn't started our regular evening groups in person, but we had last summer done a few meetups on a Saturday in the park outside. So we've decided we're going to do our in-person meetings on a Thursday evening again, though once every month to begin with. So that was brilliant. Apart from the place where we used to meet is still open, and our meeting time is 6 till 8, and we got there and they close at 6 now when they didn't used to, so we had to find another venue quite quickly. And we had one new member come and find us as well, which was absolutely lovely, and she was really, really nice and just slotted in, fitted in with everybody. She's crocheted for a while, recently started knitting, although I have to say she was knitting an amazing cable scarf. So yeah, so it was just so lovely this week to meet up with 2 groups of people in person, all to do with knitting and crochet, and it was just so nice. So that's one bit of news. Then I have another bit of news which is kind of business related, and this is really exciting. So I had decided that I was going to be brave and take the plunge and take my yarn to a proper wool show. If you are a viewer of the podcast regularly, you will know that I go to Newark Market usually at the end of each month for their artisan market, and that is it's kind of supposed to be a craft market, but yeah. And we have a general customer base, and it's never very busy, and it's okay. And I've met some lovely people, chatted to some lovely people, had some lovely customers, but probably 99.5% of the people who come to that market are not knitters. And then out of the ones who are knitters, you know, again, another small percentage are interested in hand dyed yarns. So it's a very, very small percentage of people walking around who are interested in my yarns anyway. So I had been saying this year I'm going to try a small yarn show, and I applied to one back in February, and then didn't hear for a while. Then they said I was on their waiting list. But yes, if you've got my newsletter, you will know I have got a place at a wool show called Wool at J13, and the reason it's called at J13 is because it's literally just off of junction 13 of the M6, which is in Staffordshire. So the place is called Penkridge, and it's actually at a farm, and it looks amazing. I've not been to this wool show. Apparently it'd only been going 2 or 3 years before the pandemic, but it looks like, looking at the photos, it looks like it'd been really successful. So it's 2 days. I know, I'm going to do 2 days. I mean, I had hoped my first one would just be a 1-day event, but anyway, it's 2 days. So it's a 2-day event, and they've got loads of workshops going on. I will leave a link down below to the website for the show, because it looks like a great show. And to be honest, if I hadn't have got a stand there, I was considering going down to it anyway. I am going to Yorkshire Yarn Show at the end of May though. There are loads of workshops as well. So there's a weaving workshop, spinning workshop, beginners crochet, beginners knitting, children's classes. They've also got camping there. I think there's things going on in the evening. I'm not camping. And it just looks great. It really looks good fun, and it is on the 13th and 14th of May. So yeah, I mean, take a look at it anyway. You know, I'm not saying come and see me, although come and see me. You know, I'm saying take a look at it. It looks like a really nice craft wool show, and it is £6 a ticket, I think, so not terribly expensive. And then my lovely knit group, when I was telling them about it on Thursday, a few of them decided they're going to come down and enjoy the show. So that's going to be really nice to see them. So that is super exciting. As I say, if you are on my newsletter subscription list, you should have had an email where I announced that about a week ago, maybe on Sunday last week. And I've also decided that I am going to do a prize draw at the end of May for all my newsletter subscribers. So if you're already a subscriber for my newsletter, not newslist, my newsletter, thank you very much. You will be entered into that prize draw, and anybody else who signs up up until the end of May, on the 1st of June, I will do a prize draw for all my subscribers to the newsletter. So we'll put down, I've got one link that I'll put down, which if you click on that link, it then takes you to another page where you can sign up to the newsletter, look at the Etsy shop, go to my Ravelry group. It's like kind of got, so it's a link to all the other links. So I'll just put that because that's the quickest, easiest way. Right, okay, so now on to the knitting. So I'm going to start off with my one finished object, and it is only one, and it is the crochet blanket that I had been working on for a little while now. It is done with Aldi yarn, and I used about half the pack of the yarn that I bought, so I could have got enough yarn to do another one the same size as this. Now it's not very big, it is a baby blanket, and it's kind of aimed at either being for a premature baby potentially, or just going to the Moses basket, perhaps just might do on the over the car seat. So it's just a very small blanket, but also then quite portable as well. Didn't crochet this with anybody specifically in mind, although since I started it I do know of a couple of people who are pregnant, and if either of them have a baby boy, then this would probably be suitable. I know I hate to be gender specific like that, but I know a lot of new mums like to be anyway. So so yeah, so the pattern is the Cozy Stripe pattern, which is by Lucy from Attic24. Attic24 is the name of her blog and her sort of online name. She's Lucy, I don't know what her name is. If you are a crocheter, there is a good chance you have heard of Lucy from Attic 24, because she has loads of beautiful, simple crochet blanket patterns for free on her blog. And I think where her talent really comes through is the way she puts colours together, actually. So her blanket designs, quite often it's the colours that she chooses and how she puts them together just makes them stunning. So if you haven't seen her blog, I really recommend it. I will put a link below. So yes, this is the Cozy Stripe, which is mostly, well, it's granny stripe and trebles, so that's UK terminology. Put together. So that is my only finished object this month, because I have lots of new cast ons to show you. I'm going to talk about a couple of whips that I had been working on, or that I'd started last time I saw you. The first one to talk about is actually my design that I'd started. I'd planned to work on this a lot over the last couple of weeks, but because of partly because of the yarn show, so I've had to sort of like do some prep for that, and I will be doing lots more prep for that. And also just getting involved in other things, being on a lot of Zooms and things like that, where we're knitting and talking at the same time. I need to concentrate if I'm writing up a pattern, so that's actually not had much attention. Now I do plan to at least get the first sock finished before I go to the show, because I would like to take it to the show with me, just to show, because it's knitted in my own yarn. So I do plan to try and get that first sock finished. Probably still won't have the pattern written up well enough for testing at that point, but do keep an eye open. Again, I'll pop it in my newsletter when I need test knitters, but that's going to be a couple of weeks, probably 3 weeks before I'm going to be in a place to ask for test knitters. So I'll quickly show you the pattern again if you like. But I haven't made any progress on it in the last couple of weeks because my brain has been too busy with lots of other things. But that was the pattern design. But you can see the progress keeper has not moved, and that is in my Ugly Duckling colourway, which was the colourway for April's sock club. Okay, so no progress on that. Will be progress on that. We'll at least finish the sock, and then the test call will come out in 2 or 3 weeks time. Right, other works in progress though. So I am going to prioritise over the next couple of weeks knitting up things in my own yarn, so I can take those to the show and have them on display. So the other one that you haven't actually seen for a little while, but I have worked on this in the last couple of weeks, and this is using the yarn from March's Sock Club. So this was the Little Red Riding Hood colourway. So you've got Red Riding Hood and the wolf, and the pattern that I'm knitting here is called Oberon, and it's this lovely cabled pattern by Penny Baker Knits. So it has this lovely cable detail going all the way down the front of the foot, the leg and the foot, and I have used the grey for the heel, and you can see I've just done the heel flap and the heel flap, turned the heel, and I've just started the gusset decreases, so I've gone back to the red. Now this is designed by Penny, who, if you watched last episode, you met because she was the designer that I was interviewing on the podcast. And actually, can I say thank you so much for all the responses we've had. And I must admit, I've been really naughty not replying to most of those responses, so I will try and do that before I put this podcast up, actually, because it was really rude of me not to reply. But yeah, thank you so much for all the comments, the likes, and it was really lovely to see so many people commenting on that in a really positive way. So, you know, I'm sure Penny and I, and Penny has got lots of new exciting things happening during this year, so I'm sure that Penny and I will work together again, and if we do, I'm sure we can put together another little bit to go on the podcast. So thank you to all the viewers who commented on that, and if you've not seen it, Penny and I were talking about test knitting from a designer point of view, from a knitting point of view. So if you're interested in understanding what the process of test knitting is like, then do check back. That is episode 27, and as I say, Penny and I discuss for quite a while all the ins and outs of test knitting. So yes, so this again, at least this sock needs to be finished because I want to take it with me, because one of the things I'd like to do at the yarn festival is to kind of showcase my yarns. Although I don't do many repeated colourways, and the club yarns are not repeated, I just think it's nice though to actually see somebody's to be able to feel people's yarns actually knitted up, and also to see some of previous club yarns. Does that make sense? Right, so that is, let me put the progress keeper. So the progress keeper for this came also with the club yarn, and it is a little wolf, or quite a big wolf actually. So let me move the progress keeper on this, because I plan, fingers crossed, I will have it finished next time you see it. Okay, so, but it will only be one. The aim is to get at least one finished, and get the grey one finished, one sock finished. So are those the only, those are the only whips that you had seen before. Last time I podcast, I did have this started. I'd cast it on, but it had been left in the car because it is my car knitting, and it is just a plain pair of vanilla socks, and these will be for my mum. And the yarn that I'm using is this, which is Wendy Happy, and it is a bamboo yarn. I think it's about, I haven't got the tag in there, I think it's about 80% bamboo, 20% nylon, something like that. Now my mum is allergic to wool. She really can't even touch it. So I had to find, I've knitted her one pair of socks before, which was in this same yarn. It is now discontinued, so I found some on eBay and bought, I think I've got 2 balls of this actually, so she might be getting a second pair, or even 3 pairs, all the same. And to begin with, I knew it wasn't, well, I didn't think it was going to be self-striping. When I looked at the yarn in the ball, it's not self-striping. And in fact, you can see it it's like it was pulls, but it pulls into stripes. So it goes round and round and round diagonally. So it's not self-striping in the sort of traditional way. So you can see on my needles at the moment, I've got some yellow and some of the blue, but the way it's working on the sock is it is striping, which I'm really pleased about. I'd been putting off knitting these because I had been worried that it was going to be really variegated and actually be hideous, but I love it. So yeah, I mean, even when I cast on, you can see there is never a full round in one colour, but it just goes blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, and it works. So I'm really, really, really pleased with these. It'll be interesting when we come to do the heel flap, how it stripes then, or doesn't stripe, whether it goes a bit bleh then. But yeah, so those that's for my car. So I will put a progress keeper on it now. What I've got. So I've got this little cactus progress keeper. I think that came with a yarn subscription box. So I shall pop that on to show my progress. Might not show this every couple of weeks, depends how much progress gets done on it, depends how much car knitting I have. Sometimes if I know I'm going to be sat in the car for a long time, I'll take another project with me. This is more kind of like the emergency car knitting, when I'm not expecting to wait around, so there may not be that much done on it in the next couple of weeks. Right, so now we come to the new cast-ons, and there are quite a few. So last time I videoed my podcast, it was the Saturday morning 2 weeks ago, and it was the morning before the cast-on party. Now, the cast-on party was something that was held by Tonya. She has a podcast called Karma's a Stitch, and she has a little Zoom group which has got quite a big Zoom group now. In fact, there's quite a few Zoom groups that have all joined together. We've become one big super Zoom group. So she had a Zoom party on a Saturday. Now she's in America, so for her the party started at 10 o'clock in the morning and went on till 10 o'clock at night, whatever. So for those of us in the UK, her part of the party didn't start till like 5 in the afternoon, but we got together, those of us in the UK, we got together on Zoom for a few hours during the day, where we were mostly swatching and getting some things together. Some people did start casting things on. I used the time to swatch a couple of things. And then I cast on lots of things. I cast on about 5 things that day, and what I did was I kind of would cast on, and if it was like had rib, I was casting on and doing a rib section, or casting on and working on it for about an hour before moving on to the next project. So I will show you all the different things that I cast on, and again, some have had more attention than others. So the first thing I cast on, and I think I had shown you that I planned to knit this jumper. So it's this cropped or very, very oversized long sleeve sweater. The pattern is from Burda magazine, which comes as a free extra with Simply Knitting each month. Burda, I think, is German, a German company, and it's described as easy, and it is, apart from one thing: the pattern is not very well written. It's easy if you are an experienced knitter. It is easy up until a certain point. So I've done the front. I had to swatch a few times. I had to. My plan had been that I was going to hold the yarn double, but actually that wasn't going to work out. If to get the right gauge, the fabric was going to be so stiff it's going to be horrible. So I'm holding it singly and knitting it on 6mm. The gauge comes under very, very slightly, but because it's oversized that doesn't worry me. And actually it's a summer weight top, so it doesn't matter if it is a bit lighter. So I've done the front. You can see that it is very oversized. I mean, it's big on me, it would fit me. And trust me, I'm a lot bigger than my daughter. So yes, this is for my daughter, my 17-year-old. So I've done the front, the shoulders. Now, the reason why I say the pattern is really badly written, when you come to the shoulders, the way it tells you to cast off, the way it tells you to decrease for the shoulders is not clear at all. I say it's not clear, it's clearly not written in the same way that an English pattern or a British pattern is usually written. So I had to do a little bit of working out, and I thought, well, I am assuming this is what this means. If it was one of the first garments I had knitted, I wouldn't have been able to understand those instructions. And also, it doesn't even tell you when to cast off. Yeah. So again, my assumption was, well, there are no more instructions, so I'm guessing I'm casting off here. Literally, it was like that. So yeah. So so at the end of the day, it's kind of a free pattern. Kind of, because it's with Simply Knitting, but I might write Simply Knitting and just point that out, that I just think I'm not going to say it's poorly written, because I don't think that's necessarily right. Maybe that is how a lot of continental or a lot of European patterns are written. I mean, I don't know if any of you have used any of the free patterns on the Drops websites, but they're also quite scarce in instruction, and I think if you are a new knitter and use a lot of online patterns, you are used to probably a lot of patterns, especially because they're available online. It doesn't matter how many pages they take, because either you choose to print them out or not. And they sort of sometimes almost not overthink, but overcomplicate. No, that's a bit harsh as well. But sometimes, you know, literally they give you like pages and pages of instructions, and every line is written out for you, and every little detail. And we don't always need that when we're experienced knitters. But to describe that is easy, and then not even for it to tell you when to cast off. Anyway, so as you can see though, I have done the whole of the front. Now, other than the things that are in my own yarn, this is going to be the next thing to work on, because I had to work out what to do for the the decreases on the front. I really need to do the back while I can still remember what I did. I did try and make a little note, I think. So I am knitting this on straight needles, which is unusual, but it was partly because I didn't have the correct needle size for my interchangeables. So this is knit on, I've cast on with 5mm needles, and then the main knitting is being done in 5.5mm. So the rib is in 5mm and the stocking stitch is in 5.5. And actually the bamboo and the acrylic seems to be fine, seems to be working fine, the bamboo needles. The yarn that I'm using is very cheap acrylic from Home Bargains, which is a, what's Home Bargains like? I suppose equivalent to maybe something like Target in America. It's a very sort of cheap big box store. So the pack of 400 grams, 4 100-gram balls of acrylic was less than £4. So super cheap. So if she does only wear it a couple of times, I'm not going to cry over it. So it's a kind of bit like fast fashion knitting, which I'm not, yeah, kind of goes against some of my morals, but there's another part of me that still goes, I'm a mum, I like knitting for my daughter, if she likes the colour and it's very in, and then, you know, I mean in theory I guess if she stopped wearing it I could unpick the yarn and use it for something else, baby blankets maybe, dog blanket, so yeah, but it's not like I do it very often. I'm trying to justify it here, can you tell? Having said that, of course, the Aldi blanket is also in acrylic. It's not like it all is. And you know what? I like to do a mixture of things and use a mixture of things. So that was the first thing that I cast on. I didn't get all that done in that evening, obviously. I just did the first bit of rib. Then I think this was the second thing I cast on, because I tried to do things that were going to be more complicated early on, before it got too late and I got too tired. So the second thing I cast on is a top called 7 Senses, and it's by Hanssen. And a few months ago I did a test pattern for this designer, the Carmen Cheetah cardigan, which is lovely. And as a thank you for that, she gave me the option to choose any of her patterns to have the pattern for free. So I picked, after much debate, because she's got so many lovely designs, I picked the 7 Senses pattern. And sorry, I'm just trying to sort out the progress keeper. Now unfortunately it's going to be hard to see the lace work on this at the moment, because I've got quite a lot done. It has a provisional cast on, and then it has a lace yoke. I'll put a picture up and I'll put all the information. So let me just try and hold that up a bit better. It is really, 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 really pretty lace yoke. I have done all the lace work now, so there's more increases to do before I split for the sleeves. I think there's a little bit of lace work then at the bottom of the top of the t-shirt and round the edges of the sleeves, but that's all the heavy lace work done. Now when I did the cast on at the cast on party, all I did was the provisional cast on, and then it's got short row shaping, so you can see there's more there than there is there. So I did the short rows while I was on a Zoom call, which I think was quite impressive really. So that was, and then I left it once it got to the lace work, and then I've done all of this lace work in the 2 weeks since then. I'm absolutely loving it. Absolutely love this project. It is so pretty. The yarn that I'm using, remember I've got the camera on that side. The yarn that I'm using is Sirdar Luxury Cotton Soft, 100% cotton 4-ply or fingering weight in the UK, in the US. This was a charity shop bargain. You might be able to see. I paid £1, £1 per ball for that. Okay. And I got 7 balls, which I'm not going to need all of that, so I'm probably going to be left with maybe 3 balls left over, which could then be used for a baby garment of some sort. But it's just lovely. It is very, very soft. It has a really nice stitch definition, and it will be washable, machine washable, etc. So really pleased with that. Now that might go on hold a little bit because, as I said, I've got it's not going to be a focus over the next couple of weeks. So I'm just going to, I've got a progress keeper there that is holding my stitches together. I'll put another progress keeper, it's cute little mushroom. I'll put this progress keeper on, it's quite a lightweight one, to show where I've actually got up to. As I say, if I don't get anything done on this in the next couple of weeks, I won't worry about showing it to you again in 2 weeks' time. As much as I would really love to prioritise this, it can't be. I've got to prioritise the things that are in my own yarn. Okay, but it's really pretty. This bag, I've not been telling you where all the bags are from. I'm not going to bother today because I've so many other things to talk about. I'll do that on a quieter podcast. So then, what else did I cast on? So I then cast on, this wasn't something I had planned to cast on that day, but it has been in my queue for quite a while, and it was on my wish list. And the lovely Tonya decided, out of the goodness of her heart, to gift a pattern to those of us that were going to the party. And she went on to our Ravelry queues and lists and things and picked a pattern. And I'm so pleased that she picked this pattern because I knew what yarn I wanted to use for it. And she picked out this pattern, and oh, hang on, that's the wrong. Oh, there's another whipping. Oh, I'm not going to show you that because it's just plain stocking stitch. I'll wait till I've got more done on it. So she picked out this pattern called the Cable Crush Hoodie by Knitatude, I think is how you pronounce her name. Lovely designer. Again, I would say check out her designs. She's got lots of amazing designs, but this one really had called to me, and I knew which yarn I was going to use for it, and that is this yarn, which is Manos Maxima, and it's from Manos del Uruguay. And I'll put up a picture of me holding all the yarn because that's how it arrived when I ordered it. It came as this huge, and I mean I am not exaggerating, that picture, I didn't take that picture at an angle to exaggerate the size. I did take the picture at an angle to show the size of it, but it's not exaggerated. So it was 10 100-gram skeins that were, they weren't wound, they were, so that 10 100-gram skeins all put together in a big bundle and then held together. And because it's quite thick wool, the way it came out, that it looked like this massive skein. And I bought it on eBay, and I've also got another 1,000-gram bundle in the same yarn in shades of blue. And I bought it 10 years ago maybe on eBay, not really knowing what I was getting because it just looked a bargain, and it was an absolute bargain. I think I paid about £30–35 for each of those two, so £70 for the two, so 2,000 grams of yarn. And then it arrived, and I wasn't sure what to do with it, and I wasn't sure, and it got put to the bottom of this big tub. And then I'd get it out and kind of go, that's amazing, it's really cool, but what am I going to do with it? And I'd got in my head that it was really chunky, but actually it's not. It's more just like an Aran weight. And yet in my head I thought it was much chunkier than that. I think because of the size of it altogether, it just, yeah. And there wasn't many patterns, so certainly there were no garment patterns on Ravelry at the time. And anybody who'd used it had just used it for things like hats and gloves, or you know, mittens and scarves, and just used it for accessories. Nobody'd really used it for a full garment. So I'd got it in my head that I really didn't know what I was going to do with it, and although it had been relatively cheap, perhaps it was cheap, you know, perhaps it was a waste of money really, because what was I going to do with it? Anyway, I had already decided that it would work for this pattern. So I wound up 5 balls of it, so I've still got 5 not wound up. Now if my maths is right, I think it will take 7, so I'll have 3 balls of this, skeins of this left. Now all I've done with this is just done the cast on and the rib. but I do really love the colours. Obviously it's quite thick, it's going to be super warm, so there's no rush for this. It's not going to be something that's going to be worn over the summer, so I am not going to worry about carrying on with this until I've got a few other things cast off. I will put a progress keeper on, so again, don't think you're going to see this now until at least a month, if not longer, because it's going to be something that I'll probably work on more like in August and September to have it ready for the colder months. But it is cast on. So that is gorgeous though, I'm really, really pleased with it. Then, what else did I cast on? So, my March Mystery Club was Sleeping Beauty. And I had planned on knitting a pair of socks with all my Little Likac club yarn. I had decided I was going to knit a pair of socks with everyone, so at the end of the year I would have 12 pairs of socks. Now the one that I did, the yarn that I dyed for March was Sleeping Beauty, which was these. And I kept looking at it thinking, it wants to be a shawl. No, you've got to knit socks. Wants to be a shawl. No, got to knit socks. You don't wear shawls that often. No, you've got to knit a pair of socks. But it would make such a pretty shawl. I cast on a shawl with it. So, just shows you as well, doesn't it, that sock yarn doesn't have to be for socks. So I have cast on a shawl, which is very plain up until the end where it has some very simple lace section. And I'm thinking the last 20 grams, so as I get towards the end I'll be weighing the yarn, and when we get down to the last few rows I'm going to finish it off in the contrast colour. So I have cast on the Spindrift shawl because I thought I didn't want something that was heavily patterned because it's quite heavily variegated yarn. And the Spindrift shawl is stocking stitch with just a pretty eyelet edging, and then when it gets to the end it has eyelet edging lace work. So that's how it's knitting up, and I am pleased with it. I mean, it would have made nice socks, but it's going to make a really pretty shawl. So it's the Spindrift shawl by Helen Stewart. Now that is a pattern that you can get from her for free if you sign up to her newsletter, or when you sign up to her newsletter, or certainly that's how I got it. So presuming she's still doing the same offer, if you sign up to her newsletter, or it might have been a specific one about knitting shawls, but you get the pattern free. So check out Helen Stewart's website, and I'm sure there's still a way you can get this for free. And as you can see, it's just got these yarn overs at the end, and it's got kind of like an I-cord. Would you describe that as I-cord? I think so. So it's got quite a little pretty edging, which is very simple to remember. Helen Stewart, she's also known as Curiously Handmade. She does her designs, her patterns, so that you can work out what percentage you are on. And I'm at 40% of the pattern, and I've done that in 2 weeks. And I've been working lots of other things, so I'm confident that I can get this finished in 2 weeks, and again take it to the yarn show. That was the stitch marker, or the progress keeper, that came with Sleeping Beauty. So I shall move that up now. That was how much I did at the cast on party, so I just kind of got it started really and then moved on. So I'm going to move the progress keeper to where we are now, so that, well, as I say, hopefully next time you see it, it will be finished. Though I have got to think about when I'm going to record my next podcast, because I should record it in 2 weeks' time. That is the weekend when I'm going to be at the show. The Friday evening I'm going to be setting up at the show. The Saturday and Sunday I'm going to be at the show. So I might have to record my podcast during the week, one evening, on the Wednesday or Thursday. And in which case it could be that one of the socks or the shawl still isn't finished at that point. That's entirely possible. then I suppose the shawl will need blocking, so I guess that needs to be, again, sort of prioritised so that I've got time to block it. So that's the Spindrift Shawl by Helen Stewart, and as I say, the colourway was my March Mystery Club. Right, so what is next? So say that I'm not going to worry about showing you because there's so little progress and it's all just stocking stitch. So the last thing I think then that I cast on at the cast on party, and I saved this till last because I thought it was going to be relatively straightforward, and again it's a pattern that I have been wanting to use for ages, and if you remember I'd sorted through all my scraps and all my minis and put them into different colours. So I've got the muted granny stripe blanket, which I have done some more on since I last saw it recorded, but I will save that until I'm only going to show that every few months because it's the same thing. So anyway, I had then put all my bold bright colours together for one project, and then some anything that was less than 5 grams, or anything that was more heavily variegated, I put to one side for this project, and it is the Battenberg Blanket, and that is a massive blanket if you do it the size that it's by Cherry Heart. Now I want to say that the lady's name is Paula somebody. I'm just going to refer to it as Cherry Heart as a designer for now because I can't remember if it, no, it's not Paula, so is it Sandra Paul? Sandra Paul, I think. Anyway, if you do it the way the same as hers, she used over 1,000 squares. But I have done nearly 30, I think, in a very short space of time. And so you've got these little mini squares that you do, which are in a kind of like a granny square, but I think she calls it a solid granny square. So that's what they look like in a heavily variegated. That's what they look like in a solid. I made a mistake there. So with the Battenberg Blanket is you have all of these coloured squares, and then you do use a contrasting yarn, which I've not brought down with me. I'll show you another time because I've no doubt this will be shown again. And then you have a contrasting yarn, which I have just got a plain undyed yarn that I'm going to use for that. And once you've got so many of your coloured squares done, you start joining them together by making your contrasting square. And as you finish the contrasting square, you crochet on it straight on to a coloured square, so you're kind of crocheting it together as you go. Look at these. So I've got a mixture, as you can see, I've got a real mix of bright variegated ones, and then not so keen on that one myself. So even where this one I'd done a whole square in that colour and just got this tiny bit left, and same with that. So I put that together. So I think it's going to be gorgeous, but it's going to be a labour of love, and it's going to be a very, very long-term project if I'm going to do a big one. But I've got all sorts of scraps, and it takes me about 15 minutes. Can you see as well? Look, I've been sewing in the ends as I go, which, if you know me, that is unheard of. It takes 15 minutes to do a square, and what I've been doing is in the evenings when it gets down to the sort of like, it's getting a bit late, I should go to bed in a minute, I'll just do a quick square. So I'm doing at least one square every evening, and then sometimes as well it's like, you know, sit down, oh it's only 15 minutes till dinner, I'll just quickly do a square. Now actually I need to stop doing that as much as I love them, and instead let me just do 15 minutes on this sock, let me just do 15 minutes on the shawl. Otherwise, because you can see I've really enjoyed making those. I've looked at the video of how you crochet them together with the undyed squares, and I'm a bit concerned that it looks super fiddly, but I know with all of these things that probably the first couple are super fiddly and then you get used to it, and then hopefully watch this space. Right, so hopefully I won't do too many more of these this next couple of weeks, because I've got to get the other things done. But again, it might be a case of that last sort of 15 minutes before bed, just do one a night. So that was the last thing that I cast on at the cast on party. I still had one more thing that I had wanted to cast on at the cast on party, but I ran out of time and I was getting tired. I was like falling asleep because my eyes were tired, probably where I'd been on Zoom constantly all day and evening. So I did allow myself to cast this project on as well in the last couple of weeks, and that'll be it, apart from, fingers crossed, a test knit that I might be involved with that I'm still waiting on to hear on. Apart from that, this should be my last cast on for a while. I've really got to get some things finished. And this is the Triangulum Blanket, so this was the other thing that I had put scraps to one side for. Now this pattern is, again, it's a bit like the Cozy Memories blanket. The idea is that it just takes up small amounts of yarn, and you can use it to use up some of your leftovers from other projects. And this is by Ellie Jones of Craft House Magic. She has a podcast, Craft House Magic, a very popular podcast, where she does knitting, crochet and sewing on there. And this is her design, and she brought this out in the autumn, and I knew then that it was probably one of the nicest scrap yarn projects and designs that I'd seen. I really liked it, that it was a bit different to the squares, and I thought it was going to work really nicely. But then I looked at other people's, and again, I didn't like when people had used really heavily, not necessarily variegated, but self-striping and things like that. I, again, wasn't sure how well it worked, because obviously you decrease. It is a paid for pattern, and if you do self-striping, it's one of those where the stripes get thicker, and yeah. So again, I thought, right, I'm going to use this for my mostly solid colours, solids and semi-solids. And then when it gets down to less than 5 grams, so like this yesterday, this takes 3.5 grams. So 3.5 grams, I had a 5 gram mini, this green, so 3.5 grams has gone into this, which then left me with about 1.5 grams you need for the squares in the Battenberg. I say 3.5, actually, it's not even that, it's like 3.14, because I can remember thinking it's like pi. So 3.15, so 3 and a bit grams for this, and 1.5 grams. So a 5 gram mini means I can get one of these out of it, and one of the Battenberg squares. So I decided that I was going to do rainbow theme, so it kind of works in 6s as hexagons. And so I think that was the first hexagon I did. So this first one I actually did red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. I don't want any colours sat right next to each other. So this next hex, but each 6 is going to have the 6 colours in. So what did I say? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Yeah, so obviously the actual rainbow is 7 colours, because you have 2 shades of purple. It goes blue, indigo, purple, or blue, purple, indigo, blue, violet, blue, indigo, violet. So I've just gone blue, purple. So this next one can't go in quite the right order, because if it went in the right order, I was going to end up with 2 colours next to each other. I actually sat and coloured in the hexagons to work it out. So this next hexagon has still got all the right colours, but not quite in the right order. This time it goes red, yellow, orange, blue, green, purple. So yeah, or if you look at it as, this hexagon will be red, orange, yellow, green, purple, blue. Well, so it'll go red, orange, blue, purple, green, yellow, anyway. But each hexagon will have the 6 colours. So I am really enjoying this. Each triangle takes just over an hour at the moment, about an hour and 10 minutes. What I love about this though is it's knitted on DPNs, and what I love about it is you join as you go, so there's no masses of sewing up at the end. So I'm really enjoying it. The only thing that worries me a little bit is as the blanket grows, because you are knitting in the round, you're having to move the blanket round, and I'm thinking, as that gets big. So I don't know how big this is going to be. Also, I've got loads of blue scraps, quite a lot of red, quite a lot of purple, not so much yellow and orange in the way of scraps. So either I'm going to have to, I don't want to buy something, well, I certainly don't want to buy whole balls specifically for it, but I might end up having to do that, or I might have to dye up some minis myself in different shades of yellows and orange. I could probably do that actually. And I need to look, or I can look through my stash actually, because I have got a 100 gram skein of yellow that I started to use and that I didn't really like. It's yellow with some splashes of other colours, and yeah, so I might end up using that. So we'll see, we'll just see. Don't know how big I'm going to do it. So those are my two scrappy projects, and those are all the new cast ons. I did tell you it was a lot. Which just leaves me with acquisitions, and I have got a couple of things. I bought a new project bag, which I haven't got anything in yet actually, and it's absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It's almost like I don't know what to put in it. It's too, it's just very much my colours, and just look at the pattern. To me, this has just got everything that I love. It's got fairies, I love. It's got vegetables, because I do actually quite like growing vegetables, even though the last couple of years I haven't done much. I'm going to really try and get back into it again. I used to have an allotment. It's got purple on it. It's just everything. And not only did I buy the bag, it came with a notions pouch. Isn't it beautiful? And then it had a little lavender sachet in there as well. So I haven't got anything in this yet. It was designed by Wool, or made by Woolrich Crafts. It was absolutely beautifully made. Bought it on Etsy. I bought it full price. There was no promotion or anything like that. I just thought it was beautiful, and it was quite a reasonable price for the set. I'm not going to say it was cheap. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't ridiculous price. It was a fair price because the quality of it is lovely. So it was a fair price. So, you know, good value in respect that it's beautiful quality and you're paying for somebody's time. So very, very, very pleased with that. Just don't know which project to put in it, because I like all my bags. I only use bags that I like, really. So, I know. I said to you, didn't I, that I've probably got a test knit that I might be getting involved in. I'll save it for that. Right. And then another acquisition, I said then that I love a good charity shop bargain, and I always pop into charity shops when I go past them. You never know what you're going to find. That pink cotton that I'm knitting the 7 Senses was from the charity shop. So the same charity shop I went into yesterday, and their wool basket, they have like a separate basket with wool in, was kind of overflowing. So I went in and they had some quite decent, they'd got some Hobbycraft baby yarn, which was a very nice soft acrylic yarn. Absolutely perfect for knitting for babies, particularly for mums that don't want to hand wash stuff. Does any new mum want to hand wash stuff? Anyway, but I didn't buy that because I thought I've got plenty of acrylic, but they did have some fibre spates. DK, 100 grams, 100% superwash merino. It is so soft. I think it's quite old, not gonna lie. I think it's quite old. It's called Strawberry. It does tell you every skein is unique. Please alternate skein. It's Vivacious DK. The reason why I say I think it's quite old is I've got some fibre spates that is old. And unless this is the new logo or the new, I don't know. I got the impression that it might have been sat in somebody's stash for a while. I don't care. And you can see that it is quite tonal as well, because fibre spates, would you call fibre spates a commercial? It's kind of commercial hand dyed. It's one of the bigger, it's a bit like maybe like Malabrigo. And I think it's American. Maybe it's not, I don't know. I need to check. Don't know if it's British or American. It's just the fact that it's 115 grams rather than 100 grams. Which, anyway, but it is grams, not ounces. So the reason why I say at the beginning as well, so maybe it was a bit disappointing, and is because there was only 2 skeins. But I had to get it. I have got some other fibre spates. Maybe fibre spates is British. Stop rambling. I will look it up before I edit it and put it in. Now it is actually, like I say, for a commercial-ish yarn, it is quite mixed. I mean, it does say that each skein is unique, and you can see there where the dye hasn't caught, where the knot is. So it does really strike me as being like hand dyed rather than machine dyed, whatever. Now the only other thing, so it's definitely got different tones. You can see it's much brighter there and darker there, which does not worry me at all. I love that. Now the only thing was then when I inspected it when I got home is there is a little bit of damage, and now this could be moth damage. I've had a quick look, sort of checked it out. I can't see anything still in there. Now if you know anything about moth damage is not caused by adult moths. Moth damage is caused by larvae. And if this has been in somebody's stash for a long time, it is entirely possible that moths have got to it. But the larvae nibble on the yarn and then grow into adult moths and disappear. And I have seen before now actual moth damage and potentially seen what's caused the damage. I can't see anything. And I know you could say, well, you wouldn't be able to see the eggs, etc. But what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to pop it in a plastic bag, pop it in the freezer for a couple of days. Allegedly, that kills off anything. I don't think there's anything still in here, but I can't be 100% sure. I can't be 100% sure that that is moth damage, but yeah. I think, yeah, it definitely looks like something's nibbled at it there though. So it depends where they'd stored it. So I think to be safe, I will pop it in the freezer for a few days. But I'm not worried because I know you get some people who go, oh, that's it, if we've got moth damage, or, you know, there's larvae, oh, just throw it out, throw it out. I don't like to throw things out unless I know I really need to. So I'm not throwing it out. And I can get around that as well. If it's 100% wool, I can split splice when I use it. But yeah, look, that is gonna rip. That's only got one strand left, so that will need sorting. But yeah, so potentially some moth damage on it, but I am not going to stress over it. Life's too short to stress over that. Right, and that is it. And I know some people are going to leave in their comments going, oh my god, Amanda, throw it away, throw it away. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to put it in a plastic bag, I'm going to put it in the freezer. And when I get it out of the freezer, I'll wash it, dry it, and then I will put it in a separate plastic bag before I put it in with any of the rest of my yarn, just in case. Right, okay, so what else? I think that is definitely it for the knitting content. I've told you the major news as far as going to the yarn show in a couple of weeks. I have got quite a lot of new yarn listed in the shop. I'm going to be dyeing tomorrow, but I don't know whether the stuff that I dye tomorrow, I might not list in the shop anyway. I might just wait till after the show and then put surplus stock from the show into the shop. Because obviously if I put it into the shop and then it sells at the show, I've got to remember to take it out of the shop again. So, but do have a look if you're interested, because I did put in quite a lot of new yarn colours last weekend. I think last weekend I listed in some new colours and some new mini sets. So take a look at that if you're interested. Sign up for the newsletter if you want to be entered into the prize draw. And yeah, that's it really for the knitting news. I mentioned that June and July could be a bit different. Just a quick note, I am a GCSE exam marker, and the exam marking is going to start, I've already got admin stuff to do on that, but the actual marking is going to start from the middle of June and run through to mostly the end of July. That does mean I'm going to have less time for knitting, definitely less time for podcasting and editing. So it is possible that I'm going to record some extra things in May that then might go out while I'm busy working on exam marking. June and July may not have so many updates, because actual podcasts with updates on my knitting, because there might not be much to show you. So I'm going to record a few other things. I'm going to do a stash video. So in May half term, I'm going to have a tidy up of my stash. I'm going to get out all the tubs of my stash and go through it. So I'm going to do a video with that, and that will go get put up later. And there's a couple of other things that I've got ideas for. So there may be some pre-recorded videos that then go up in June and July, particularly when I am way too busy to actually record full podcasts and things. So just bear with me on that. But I'm hoping to make it interesting content anyway. Perhaps if I get time before the recording the marking starts, I might do another video with Penny or some other friends and things like that. So yeah, lots to do. Got loads of big to-do lists, and the same with school. Lots to do for school because the exams do start in a few weeks. So I have got essays to mark to give back to my year 11s, to give back to my year 13s, yeah, lots of things going on there. Right, thank you for joining me. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Set the little bell so that you get an alert next time I put up a video. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Bye for now.